Yo, what's up? My name is Patrouski, and today I wanted to point out my top 5 cheap competitive Pokemon that'll help new players get into PvP. There's a multitude of reasons of why these Pokemon are a little cheaper than the others, but let's go ahead and get into it. Hopefully there should be a Pokemon for each sort of tier. Whether you want to play doubles, OU, UU, or NU, there should be something for everyone. Let's go ahead and get into my number 1 pick. Alright, the first comp Pokemon I want to talk about is an NU comp Pokemon in Miltank. Now, the reason why Miltank is quite cheaper than other comps is really quite simple. It's because Miltank is a female-only species, so people aren't going to be buying male Miltanks, they don't exist, to be able to breed up other Pokemon in the same age group. Every Miltank that exists is going to be bred into another Miltank, so people can't use them as breeders for other Pokemon. So every Miltank that exists will always stay a Miltank, which essentially means there ends up being more supply than the demand for actual Miltank, because if Miltanks can't be transformed into any other Pokemon, there's just going to be so many Miltank, right? That's really the TLDR of it. There's too much supply for the demand. Not everyone needs a Miltank comp, but it's a very good competitive Pokemon that is super underrated in my opinion in the NU tier. That is another huge point of this video, is that I think all of the Pokemon on this list, I promise you, all of them are actually really good in competitive Pokemon. I'm not showing you like things like, oh yeah, Ledians are really cheap. Competitive Seeking is really cheap because it's terrible and no one wants it. No, these are actually good competitive Pokemon that end up being cheaper just due to a factor of things. But I will show you guys a physical example. Let's go ahead and price check a 5x31 Miltank on the GTL versus another kind of competitive Pokemon. So here's a great example. If we search with these 5x31s, Miltank is the third Pokemon that comes up, which really shows you it's so cheap. This is like buy price. If you sort by lowest price, if you search these IVs, sort by lowest price, Miltank comes up. There are a lot of other great examples of these cheap female-only species, Kangaskhan being another one. Now, these obviously don't have the correct nature, so they need to be rebred to some extent. This one's pretty unusable. This Kangaskhan's unusable. This Miltank with Naive, you could make a really offensive Miltank if you wanted to and have it be a plus special attack nature, or plus speed nature. It's definitely plausible. This is Sassy. This is a fantastic natured Miltank. Pretty good. Miltank is pretty fast, but Sassy's really good. Sassy is definitely quite good. 440k for like a borderline perfect comp. Obviously, you need to train it up and everything. That's really good comparatively to other things that cost a lot more Pokeyen. But you really see the point comes across when you search by the lowest price, and so many Miltanks are in those top couple pages. Now, since we searched this up, this will be a great transition into our number 2 pick, which is Lilligant, another NU Pokemon that is really, really good. Let me actually go ahead and show you guys the Lilligant NU Zooshit statistics. It's a very good Quiver Dance Pokemon in NU, and it can't be understated. 4.74% usage at the moment. Miltank's actually higher. I'm kind of surprised by that. That's definitely changed recently. Almost 7% usage rate for Miltank, so pick those up. Really great competitive Pokemon. Lilligant, little rough win rate. I do think Sceptile and stuff outperforms it, but still, it's probably the best Quiver Dancer in NU. There just aren't that many Pokemon that are great at Quiver Dancing in NU. As I'm looking through the list, yeah, I think Lilligant is probably the best Quiver Dancer on this list for sure. So if you want a Quiver Dance Pokemon, if you like that kind of setup attack, if you like that kind of playstyle, Lilligant is a pretty cheap competitive Pokemon. I've been looking to build one coming up, and they're female only, once again, similar to Miltank, so they should be pretty cheap. Let's go ahead and sort. Let's look up those IVs that I did before, but without the attack IVs. So just Miltank wants physical attack, but Lilligant wants that special attack. Here we see an extremely cheap Miltank, since it like a mixed Miltank for 288k, I guess, if you want. But let's go ahead and look up the cheapest Lilligant with these stats. Looking at 540k for Naive. Just, this is a perfect, EV train ready to go. 540k for a perfect, competitive 5x31 Pokemon is just unbelievably cheap. Even with a particle effect, I can't tell you, like, that is a very, very, very good price. This one is way less good. Do not buy this. This will never sell. Way too expensive for what it is. But you see these, like 800k. This is also really expensive. Like, these have been listed for like 25 days, listed 14 days, 18 days. These have been listed for way too long. These will not sell. They're a little too expensive. But yeah, you really see the power of Lilligant and how you can get them really, really cheap. 500k, where most 5x31 Pokemon, especially natured, are going to cost you around 800k generally. So being able to get them for 300k less is a really, really big deal. So Lilligant's our number 2 pick, another NU Pokemon. All right, let's move out of NU up to the OU tier. The next Pokemon we're going to be talking about is actually Gyarados. And if you've seen some of my other videos, you might understand why a comp Gyarados might be so cheap. It's because Magikarp is one of the most farmed Pokemon in the entire game since it is in the Dragon Egg group. It's a great breeder for other Pokemon. We can actually see this Magikarp, 115k, listed for 8 days. This is Adamant Nature. This is a perfect Gyarados comp, ready to be. There's 2 of them. 2 adamant natured, 20 plus HP, 20 plus defense, 20 plus special defense, those 20 plus defenses plus 31 attack and speed. That is very important. You really do want that 31 attack and speed. And going adamant nature, in my opinion, is like really fantastic right now because you don't have to worry about Jolteon. The main reason why you'd want to go Jolly Nature on a Gyarados is to be able to be faster than Jolteon after one Dragon Dance, but Jolteon is pretty pitiful in OU at the moment. It's pretty known by most players, where Jolteon's pretty much being held in the tier just due to people loving evolutions and loving Jolteon, whereas you see its abysmal 5.6% usage rate, not bad, but 43% win rate is disgusting on a Pokemon with that high usage rate. It's really being carried like nothing else is that low. We don't see a single other Pokemon. Even like the lowest one is 47% with Ferrothorn. Like that is an unbelievably low win rate to have on a pretty highly used Pokemon. Same with things like Haxorus. Haxorus is just not quite powerful enough for OU, unfortunately. But yeah, Jolteon, which has like 5% less usage. So Jolteon is like the highest usage in OU that has one of the worst win rates. Same with Milotic, very, very low win rate. But kind of like noob bait. But essentially, back to Magikarp. Magikarps are really cheap because everyone farms them. They're super, super popular, super farmed. Everyone breeds them for profit. They're very, very active. The Magikarp economy is super, super active, so you can often find some really cheap, especially budget ones. If you don't want to go 2 times 31, you can go, let's say 25 plus, but you still want that 31 speed. Let's see if we can find something with the correct nature. We might not be able to. Lonely Nature could definitely work. 90k for this. 30 attack, 25 plus on these 2 defenses. That's fantastic. This is a really good Magikarp to go ahead and pick up. Let's go ahead and look up Gyarados as well. But essentially, hopefully you guys are getting the point across. Gyarados comps are really cheap. Another huge point for Gyarados comps is that Gyarados actually learns most of the moves it needs for competitive play. You do have to input some TMs. You can go like... you can put Earthquake on it or Power Whip. Those are going to be 2 TMs, but 2 moves that he definitely wants to keep are going to be Waterfall and Dragon Dance, which you learn via level up. So you don't have to pay for that. So that's 2 moves you just get for free that are totally competitively viable and actually the exactly correct moves you want. You could also keep Crunch on Gyarados. Some people will run Crunch in competitive play, but I think you definitely see more Earthquake and Power Whip and stuff like that nowadays. Power Whip, there's just such powerful moves on Gyarados. But yeah, Gyarados is just a really cheap comp because it's so over farmed. There's so many of them in the economy and in the stream. So hopefully that's a good OU Pokemon for you guys to pick up to get into PvP. On to our 4th pick, and this is going to be kind of a broad general example. And I'm going to be talking about wall Pokemon specifically, because things like Chansey is a great example because they only need 3 stats generally. Wall Pokemon only need 31 HP, 31 defense, 31 special defense. Sometimes, high speed if you want to be able to outspeed other Chanseys to get locked into that seismic toss battle, stuff like that. But if we look up, a 3 times, this is a perfect Chansey, a 3 times 31 Chansey. Don't really care about the speed too much. Let's look for someone with a good nature. What's the first one we find with a usable nature? Bold is the ideal nature for Chansey. Let's go ahead and look up Bold. There's some of the more expensive ones I've seen. 200k, honestly kind of pricey, but what if we take the special defense, knock it down to 25, make it a little more budget. Let's take the HP, 25, make it a little more budget. Okay, not seeing the best examples here. Let's knock these down. Let's go super budget, 25 plus, bam. 25 plus and 3 stats, bold nature, 100k. 108k, just a really, really good Chansey. This also has 20 plus special attack, which is actually a big deal. So you could actually take this Chansey and evolve it into Blissey. Special attack is relevant on Blissey, but not relevant on Chansey. Chanseys are a little bulkier. They don't really have a special attack stat. They'll usually just run Seismic Toss, which your attack stats don't matter for that. Blissey, however, can slot in things like Thunder, can slot in things like Ice Beam, can slot in things like Flamethrower, Fire Blast to deal with Scizors, can deal with Gliscors or Gligar, excuse me, or things that are 4 times weak to stuff, right? Or Garchomp, so it can Ice Beam a Garchomp. Yeah, this is a fantastic price. 108k for a competitive Blissey, like fully perfect, like really, really good competitive Blissey here, just ready to go. A really great price. Things like that, things like Umbreon, another great example. Umbreon really only needs, let's go ahead and look up, let's get rid of bold nature though. Umbreon can do a couple different natures. We could also look up Eevee as well and just see careful nature. This could definitely work for Umbreon. Look at this. Perfect. Look at this, 25 plus, 25 plus, 25 plus. You don't really need the special attack stat, but 45k? Are you kidding me? You can't beat that. Look at this. It's even this one's even EV trained. Okay, it's EV trained a little funny. I wouldn't EV train it like this, but this one's even EV trained. And I guess obviously set up to be something. That's pretty interesting. 45k for that is so cheap. Only been listed for 10 hours. The next one is 90k. But be on the lookout for these. Be on the lookout for Pokemon that need less IVs, essentially. Wall Pokemon just end up being pretty cheap because you don't need that many IVs on them. Another good example is something like Shuckle. I love Shuckle. It is my favorite Pokemon in all of Pokemon, and you only need 3 IVs on it. So it ends up being a really cheap competitive one. Let's go ahead and find the first one with a correct nature. This one, perfect. 33k. There you go. 33k for a bold-natured, 25 plus in HP, defense, and special defense. This Shuckle is perfect. It's ready to go. You are going to have to EV train it, obviously, and XP train it and moveset it, but you can't beat 33k for a comp. It's too good. Now, Shuckle isn't going to be one of my examples just because Shuckle is pretty bad, in my opinion, in NU at the moment, unfortunately, but hopefully one day we'll see things like RU and PU exist and be released, and then Shuckle can actually shine. Or maybe it'll get Sticky Web or whatever one day, but there's a ton of other examples. I'm going to go ahead and call out some other examples that Pokemon that might only need 3, maybe 4 stats, but I'll go ahead and look through. So we can see things like Skarmory kind of needs 4. Let's go through. Obviously, Chansey and Blissey are the ones I mentioned. Blissey kind of needs 4, but you can just go 20 plus. 20 plus special attack is totally fine. In UU, you see things like Fortress that could definitely only need 3 stats. Umbreon, like I mentioned already. There's not an insane amount of Pokemon that can get away with it, but there are a decent amount. Dusclops, really only need 3 stats on that thing. Every other stat on it's pretty abysmal. Yeah, you just want those high defenses and high HP. That's pretty much it. Its attack stat isn't going to matter. You usually don't run any attacking moves on Dusclops. On Dusknoir, you can run things like Shadow Sneak, but that's a different Pokemon, obviously. Yeah, I think this is a really great example. Wall Pokemon needing less IVs is really important. Another extreme example of this is getting something really specific like Dugtrio. This is kind of an honorable mention. We'll get to my 5th slot in a sec, but honorable mention, Dugtrio. While I'm making this video, I thought about this. Dugtrio. On Dugtrio, you really only need 31 attack and speed. Its defenses and HP are so low that it doesn't matter. If you just have a Dugtrio with 31 attack and speed, and it's the correct nature, whether Jolly or Adamant, whichever you're looking for, it's going to be able to do its job. The whole point of Dugtrio is for it to be a revenge killer. You want to find those budget Pokemon that can do its job with less resources, with less IVs, right? So Dugtrio can do that. It can arena trap the Pokemon you need to trap, and as long as it kills it, it's good. You're usually going to focus sash it as well, so you don't need to worry about being able to tank a hit. Like, you're not going to take a hit anyway on Dugtrio, like pretty much most likely. Just extremely low HP and defenses. The special defense is the only redeeming factor, but the 70 special defense alongside that 35 HP, and then most special attacks that are hitting Dugtrio are things like Scald, which are going to obliterate it. So Dugtrio is never going to take more than 2 hits because you're usually going to focus sash it, put it down to 1 HP, and then, yeah, just let it get taken out after. But, yeah, Dugtrio is a great example of you really only need 31 attack, 31 speed, correct nature. Bam, there you go. Really cheap competitive Pokemon. You could probably get a comp Dugtrio for 50k if you find it on a good budget. Finding one with the correct nature might be a little tough, but let's go ahead and show you guys some examples. Alright, unfortunately, couldn't find a good example for the video because I'm a bad YouTuber. The cheapest example I found was like 1 to 15k, which is overpriced. What I would recommend doing is actually just breeding your own. If you were to just buy a Diglett with like 31 attack, here, let's show you guys the perfect, we can even make a breed here and just show you guys it in live time. If I were to buy a Diglett with 31 attack or a Dugtrio, these are expensive, a lot more expensive than I thought. Let's check 31 speed. Still a good budget Pokemon, but less budget than I thought. I'll be totally honest. This might be a good farming method. I need to test out some Diglett farming because that is a lot, 20k for those. But even still, if you're able to buy a 1x31 Diglett for 20k, buy a Ditto or some other Pokemon that can breed with it with the correct nature, probably for 10 to 20k, brace together, it's going to cost you around 60k. Like 60k, pretty confident I can say 60k for a fully ready to go competitive Dugtrio. Obviously, then you have to EV train everything, but yeah, really cheap. A good example of an honorable mention competitive cheap comp. Let's go ahead and move on to the 5th and final Pokemon. Now, the 5th Pokemon slot is once again sort of a general sort of collection of Pokemon, not just one Pokemon. And this is going to be Trick Room Pokemon because, once again, Trick Room Pokemon don't need as many stats as other Pokemon. They need that negative speed or low speed, which not many Pokemon really, want. Not many Pokemon want low speed, but if you have a Trick Room team built or you want to build a Trick Room team, you can find some pretty cheap niche Trick Room Pokemon for very cheap. Let me go ahead and show you guys an example of how I would go ahead and search for some Trick Room Pokemon. If I wanted to make a Trick Room team or find some Trick Room competitive Pokemon, I would search 25 plus. Let's say I'm looking for a physical attacker. I would search 25 plus in all of these stats, sort by the lowest. Things like Chain Link, that's obviously a special attacker, but Magikarp, not really a Trick Room attacker. Let's look for the first relevant Trick Room attacker. This Ditto is honestly a fantastic breeder. You could find a good deal like that. All right, now the first example that I've found of a good priced Trick Room Pokemon is this Eevee. So what you can actually do with this Eevee, really incredible IVs, 25 plus and everything you need. You do need to rebreed it probably for the nature because that nature is not going to fly, but Eevee evolves into Flareon, which Flareon definitely isn't the best Pokemon in competitive play, but it is a really good Trick Room Pokemon, 65 base stat speed, basically slow enough. You wish it was a little slower. Flareon's an awkward example, but still a great Trick Room Pokemon, having really high base attack, pretty decent base special attack, and being able to take advantage of the low speed and hit things out. It also has quick attack, which is actually super relevant in Trick Room, being able to have that speed advantage, even like when Trick Room's out, or even during Trick Room, if your Pokemon brings in something slower, is super relevant. Another great example here is Cubone. Let's check the IVs. Really fantastic IVs. You do need to rebreed it because mild nature is not going to work. Shieldon's another example. Bastiodon can work in Trick Room. A lot of great examples here for 15k or less. Being able to pick up an almost ready-to-go Pokemon for 15k or less is just really, really nice. I'm pretty confident in saying you can build really, really decent Trick Room Pokemon for under 50k. Trick Room is a great way to have a budget team and have a lot of fun. I will say Trick Room is extremely difficult to use to get into PvP for beginners because it is an extremely difficult kind of playstyle to pilot. It's very, very tough to remember all the factors and keep everything in mind. Trick Room is a very tough team to run, but if you want to be hard on yourself, if you want to challenge, try to get into PvP with some Trick Room, have some fun, make a budget team. Can be a good time. Let's go ahead and check some examples for a special attacker. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. See if we can find some good examples here. We see a Lilligant. Now we see this Carablast, which is interesting because Carablast is obviously not a special attacker, so we definitely would have to breed this, but Escavalier is not only one of the best Pokemon in NU, but it's also one of the best Trick Room users. So this is an incredibly cheap Carablast. I'm talking unbelievably cheap. It even has a really good nature. You usually want something like Brave or Adamant on it is really nice. But Relaxed is totally fine. Super, super good. Minusing that speed, making sure you're slower than other Escavaliers under Trick Room is a really big deal. Just a really fantastic comp. You'd have to breed the attack stat on it, but you can't beat 3K. 3K is just, it's so good. It'd be so cheap to breed that up. Sudowoodo, I love this Pokemon, not a special attacker, but a really interesting Trick Room Pokemon. There's a lot of fun options here, a lot of fun choices. Just try to do this. Sort by these IVs if you're looking for Trick Room Pokemon. Sort by this sort of thing. Just find whatever you like. Find whatever looks interesting to you, and it should be a fun time. Alright, now I know this video got a little off track and a little rambly, but I still hope it was helpful to you guys. If it was, make sure to click the like button, or maybe even consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see daily PokeMMO content. I would love to hit 20k subs by the end of the year. I really appreciate your guys' time, and I really appreciate you guys watching. There's a Discord link down below if you want to join that and join a really cool community and just learn a lot about the game at a rapid pace. And then finally, if you do want to go above and beyond and support the channel and really allow me to do what I do every single day and try to make the best PokeMMO content possible, becoming a YouTube member for $5 a month, drop on a Twitch Prime or a Twitch sub over on my Twitch, or most importantly, PayPal and Venmo support goes a long way. So I appreciate it. I'll see you guys later. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully you guys can have some cool competitive Pokemon to try out and have a good time. Good luck, guys. Peace. Hey, if you're seeing this clip, that means you watched the entire video, and thank you. From the bottom of my heart, that means a lot, and this clip is used to say thank you so much to any of those who go above and beyond, any YouTube members, Twitch primers, Twitch subs, Patreon, whatever you may do to support the channel. It's appreciated, and your name is here. Thank you all so much, and have a great day.